We're going to have a reckoning. There's no way around that. Mexico is now our number one trading partner. It's a position they're going to have for at least the next 60 years. And that assumes that the politics are wrong. If we get the politics right, it's going to be a much more robust relationship. The problem we have, to be perfectly blunt, is that Mexico needs a new constitution. They have one of the oldest ones in the world, and they basically ignored it during PRI rule when it was basically a one-party dictatorship. And now they're actually enforcing it while it's a multi-party democracy, but the Constitution wasn't designed for that. And I don't mean this as a slam on the Mexicans. It's like, documents that are over a century old usually required a tune-up. The US Constitution is a very rare thing, largely because of the separation of powers between local, state, and federal governments. The Mexicans are trying to basically do this on the fly without a law of the land. And until they get that right, it's really hard to have rule of law. It imagines a world where trade is not a thing and private property is more of a privilege than a right. And it makes it very difficult to regulate corporations or private interests without the government basically putting a kill switch into anything. And that is something the current government has been doing a fair amount of. So I'm not suggesting that they need to follow the American model. There's dozens of models out there that work, but you need a document that was designed in a time that had electricity and reflects that has an effect on society. Yeah, the problem with the fentanyl crisis is, I'm speaking a little bit out of area here, is my understanding is that the majority of the fentanyl that's coming in is specifically a product of the Sinaloa cartel. And while there are no good guys among the cartels, if there was one cartel that would want to survive, it would be that one, mostly because they don't kill everybody. They see drug smuggling as a business, whereas the other cartels, whether it's the Zetas or New Generation, those are the bloodthirsty, murdering bastards. And so it's weird,
That's all
ironic,
true.
tragic. I'm not sure quite what the right word is, but the one that is causing the most direct deaths of Americans is the one that would probably be an unofficial ally on the other side of the border.
And
Unfortunately, yeah, because of the geography of the area, there's so little good land to work with, and it tends to be privately held by a group of oligarchs or very powerful families. And so when we talk about the split on economics here between the left and the right and the haves and the have-nots, our haves and our have-nots are actually not too far apart. In Latin America, the inequality of the system is much higher. And so you really do have an argument between the top people at the top who own a lot of things and the people on the bottom who really don't. And so you will always have this pendulum swinging between those two groups. It'll go in the direction of redistribution until it gets out of control. Then it goes into the direction of free market principles until it becomes too politically ossified. And then it goes back and forth and back and forth. And unfortunately, unless you had a very serious overhaul of the economic system first, I'm afraid that's how it's going to be. Now, the country that is closest to getting out of that trap is Mexico. And that's largely because of NAFTA. Because if you look at most Latin American countries, most of the international trade they have is raw materials, and there's very little value add. If you look at Mexico, it's the same percentage of GDP that's raw materials, but then they have that much again that is value-added manufacturing. And that's generating a middle class. You have a middle class, the politics don't swing quite as aggressively anymore. It was never going to happen in the way that a lot of people envision. Now, you change the technologies, especially say a battery technology, and I reserve the right to change my mind. But right now, there's nothing that has reached prototype stage that looks better than lithium, and lithium is crap. So that's going to be the end of the EV system, and that's going to put sharp limitations on what we can do with green tech. And what's changed, and I think the reason we're seeing a more mature relationship conversation about this is in the last 4 years, the cost of capital has tripled because the baby boomers are taking their money and retiring. And since all green projects have to be paid for upfront, that means that the cost of their financing has tripled. It's like you build a natural gas plant, 80%, 60 to 80% of the cost of that plant over its life is buying the fuel. So you pay as you go. But you build a solar panel and all of the cost is up front, so you have to finance it. And so simply that's one little thing, the cost of capital increasing has made everybody take a much more realistic view of what we can do with these things. And that's one of the reasons we're seeing red states, of all places, really get into the green transition from a generation point of view, because just by happenstance, the red states, as a rule, have much better geography for solar or wind than the blue states. And so the dollar stretches further.
Can't
I
go
mean,
below.
I would say rule of thumb, anytime you get past about 1/3 being intermittent, you're going to have some real problems in terms of cost maintenance and reliability.
Right. That's kind of where we are in Texas, 30% wind capacity.
A couple things to keep in mind. Number one, within a year, the new wind turbines will be 1 kilometer tall. And those basically tap wind currents that don't stop. So wind is moving bit by bit into the non-intermittent category. So solar, obviously.
1 kilometer tall?
1 kilometer tall. Yeah. It's like the ones in Iowa where I'm from are already over 750 meters.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That is wildly high.
Yeah. And you're going to hate this one. A functional green transition requires a much better grid with better long-range transmission. For that to happen in Texas, ERCOT has to loosen up a little bit. Now, Texas has made this look almost easy because the east or western half of the state is nearly empty. Dallas-Fort Worth is, if it wasn't for the fact that Dallas-Fort Worth is in a massive building boom and will be for 20 years, it would probably be the first major metro in the United States to go 100% green. It's at the edge of the world's best solar zone and the world's best wind zone. Once you kind of come to grasp the concepts for why the Chinese are going away, there are 3 things that we're going to need at volume very, very soon. Number one, we need more power everywhere. Because if we're going to just replace the manufacturing that we used to get from China with stuff we do here, we need 50% more strength in the grid, 50% more power generation. That's historically significant by any way you look at it. Number 2, we need to at least quadruple the amount of materials processing as we have right now, because right now most of that's done in China as well. It's not doesn't take a long time to get set up. It's not very expensive even. It's based on technology that's a century old, but the Chinese have cornered that market. And then third, we need to build out our machinery capacity. Think of machinery as the stuff that builds other stuff. Right now, Houston is the world's 2nd largest producer of that. They need to produce at least twice as much, and preferably yesterday. So those are all 3 growth sectors that we know how to tackle with what we have, and the sooner we get started on it, the better. And I've got confidence we're going to pull this off, because over the last 3 years, industrial construction spending in this country has more than quadrupled. So, we're capable of doing it with limited government involvement, and when the government does get involved, say, like via the CHIPS Act, it only moves faster. So there's room here for everyone. No, it's going to be in the United States. If I had to put it on a map, I'd say Louisiana and Texas, the same place where the refining happens, because it's very energy intensive and you need a certain appreciation for loose environmental laws in order to smelt things. True, and they subsidize it, but you're not going to put this in Boston because that's not where the power is cheap. The power is cheapest in the area where the shale natural gas comes from, and that's going to be the southern coast.
Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am back with another brand new video for you. In this video, famous geopolitics and writer of famous books, Zeihan has discussed about current economic status of global economy. He discussed about this video of global economy. He discussed about if China economy is ready for chip manufacture or not. So if you are wanna watch this type of informative video, then you can subscribe my channel and check out my every video, because Peter Zeihan is well analyzed. Watching my channel, but now I was playing a game. His name is Zeihan, and I have established my channel, but unfortunately enemy has finished me and my teammates are still alive. My enemy has killed someone here. Let's see what's going to happen. My teammate has finished someone here. Guys, if you can also play BGMI and you can also watch BGMI related videos in YouTube. So guys, if you like to watch geopolitical content, then you can subscribe my channel because I have regularly upload this type of videos in my channel. So my humble request you please subscribe and press the notification icon for future videos of mine. Now I am going to end this video from here. I'll be back with another video next time. Bye for now. Thank you for watching until the end.